Basic Skills Day 2, Operations with Integers. We're going to work on multiplying and dividing. Remember, all of this is no calculator work. So there are some rules that are actually pretty simple for multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers. If the two numbers have the same signs, either both positive or both negative, your answer is always going to be a positive answer. So if you have two positive numbers multiplied together, you will always get a positive answer. But if you have two negative answers, or two negative numbers multiplied together, the answer is always going to still be positive. Same works for division. So, if the signs are different, what happens? Well, if the signs are different, then the answer, no matter what, will always be negative. So you'll always have a negative answer. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try these 5 problems and then pause the video, give them a try, and then put the video back on and make sure that you are doing them correctly. Remember, this is no calculator work. So if you can't multiply it in your head because some of them are bigger, then go ahead and do it on paper. So as you're coming back here, check your work. These are the answers that you should have for these problems. If you're not understanding what's going on, remember, these two signs are different, so my answer will be negative because the signs are different. These two numbers have the same sign, so you can see that it is a positive answer. So pretty simple. Let's talk a little bit about what about if you're multiplying and dividing by 0. Well, if you have any number multiplied by 0, anything, any number, whether it's a decimal fraction, negative number, it doesn't matter. Any number times 0 is always 0. So no matter what, your answer is always 0. If you have 0 divided by a number, so any number divided, when you have 0 divided by that number, so that means the number is second, or the number is on the bottom of the fraction. If that's the case, the answer is still always 0. Seems simple enough, but not if you're dividing by 0. We can't define division by 0. So when you have 0, so you have some number divided by 0, or any number divided by 0, the answer is not 0. It is undefined. We don't define it. It can't be done. So we can abbreviate undefined, or UNDEF, or you can spell out the whole word. So now let's have you practice a few of these. Oh, sorry, we have one more thing to talk about, which is the identity property of multiplication. Then we'll practice a few examples. So the identity property of multiplication says for all real numbers, remember, real numbers means any number on the number line. So for any number, when you multiply it by 1, you simply get the number itself. So whether you're multiplying by 1 or 1 times the number, you always get the number itself. Now, there's also the multiplicative inverse property that says for all non-zero real number A, or for any non-zero real number A, there is exactly one number, 1 over A, such that when you multiply A, any number, times 1 over that number, you always get an answer of 1. Because if we multiply this like a fraction, what you end up getting is you get 1 times a, which is a, over a times 1, which is a, and any number divided by itself is always 1. And that particular value, 1 over the number itself, is called the reciprocal of that number. And that's important when we get to fractions. But that is called the reciprocal, or another fancier word is the multiplicative inverse of a. So here are some examples to try. Pause the video, give these 3 examples a try, and then check back to make sure you've gotten them correct. So, as you're checking back here, the middle one is undefined. How do you know? What you should look for is that the 0 comes second, or the 0 is on the bottom of the fraction. Let's try a word problem. Where would you get a word problem where you're multiplying and dividing? Remember, multiplication is just repeated addition. I put a pretty simple one in here, but it says a hot air balloon is traveling 3.5 miles per hour. It travels in a straight line parallel to the ground for 2 hours before landing. So what this means is after 1 hour, how far would this hot air balloon have traveled? Well, remember, it's traveling 3.5 miles every hour. So 3.5 after the first hour, 3.5 after the second hour, which gives us 7 miles total. Now that's a pretty simple one, but what if it was traveling for 3.5 hours or 9.2 hours or something like that? Well, all we need to do, remember, for this is we're adding 3.5, the number of hours there are, so we're going to take 3.5 times 2, which again just gives us 7 hours. And here's another one. I'd like you to give this one a try. Pause the video, give the problem a try, write down your answer, and then check back. So it lost 6 yards on 3 consecutive plays, so -6 and -6 and -6 gives us -18, or -6 times 3. And this is the expression right here that actually models that situation. And here's some kind of review from yesterday. It says, think about these. Can you solve them? I know you can solve them. I'm confident. But can you write an expression to represent them? Can you write a number sentence that expresses the answer? So go ahead and give these a try, and then pause the video and then check back. So as you're coming back, you owe your parents $5, so that's -5. And then you earn $12 babysitting. How much money will you have when you pay your parents back? You will have $7. What if you owe your parents $5 and you borrow 6 more or 8 more? So that means you're going to have to, you owe them 5, now you owe them 8 more. You could write that as -8 more dollars, or you could write it as adding another borrowing situation of $8. Either way, so you could either write it like that or borrowing 8 more. But either way, the answer is the same. Now you are at a loss of $13, or you owe your parents $13. The next one, in a football game, the Irish gained 8 yards. So remember, that's +8. I don't need the plus. Then they lost 5. Then they gained 7. Did they make a first down, which means they had to have a gain of at least 10 yards? Well, the gain of 8 and loss of 5 still leaves me at +3. Then add the 7 more, and that gives me a 10-yard gain. So yes, it is a first down. Last one, if you got this correct, the temperature falling would be represented by -3. Then it rises 12 degrees, and then it falls -5, or falls adding either subtracting 5, or again, you could also look at that as you're adding a loss of 5. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. So -3 plus a 12, or at -3 below 0, now you add 12 degrees. That gives you 9 degrees. And now you're adding that -5, which gives you, now it is 4 degrees overall. The overall temperature change, or the change in temperature, is an overall change of +4. So that is the end of Basic Skills Day 2.